Just a couple of quick thoughts on Afghanistan, this unfolding fiasco that we are currently going through, that the people of Afghanistan are going through and the troops that are there. It is almost beyond belief. I mean, you listen to this and you see the reports, you see the Afghans hanging on to the wheelhouse and onto the planes and falling, and you had a footballer, a soccer player from Afghanistan fall to his death, and others just trying to hang on to those planes to get out of there. How in the world, after 20 years and 4 presidents, are we at this point right now? The lack of competence to me here, and I know that this is very complex. I'm not discounting that. But 20 years, and what have we accomplished? And 20 years, and how do we not know how to get out of this and make this happen? There has got to be some type of pressure on Biden somewhere to make this happen in a certain way under a certain deadline. I understand he wants to create urgency, but this is a fiasco. And it makes me wonder again why we were even there in the first place. I remember, this is one of the reasons I bring this up. I remember when we went into Iraq, right before we went into Afghanistan. And President Hinckley was the prophet then. And I remember him coming to the pulpit during general conference after the U.S. had gone in and invaded Iraq. And I don't think I've ever seen on anybody's face, a prophet's face before, this type of concern. He was not happy, right? He was not happy. It's not that he was angry. He was disturbed with what we were doing. And yet, here I was thinking, this is the right thing to do. Look at all the evidence with the weapons of mass destruction, and we need to go in there and, hey, maybe we can bring democracy here. That's what I was thinking at the time. You know, a little bit of nation building is probably a good thing. I mean, America's good, democracy's good, right? But President Hinckley was not happy and was very concerned. It was very obvious. I've got his look of his face just... I've never forgotten that. And here we are. Here we are after these 4 presidents and 20 years of nation building in Afghanistan. And what's going to happen? It's going to be turned back over to the Taliban, a humanitarian disaster, and a humanitarian disaster beyond anything that was there before. If you listen to the numbers from the UN, there are 20 million people in Afghanistan that they say are on the verge of starvation. It could happen very, very quickly. And you have an infrastructure there with the Taliban. How are they going to feed these people? How is that going to happen? And you may have a war going on there between ISIS, who killed 27 Americans and many others, at least today. That is, the generals have said that more attacks are imminent from ISIS. And so you've got ISIS coming in, trying to destabilize things, and who knows what else is going to happen. Is that going to push the deadline back of August 31st? Is it going to create greater problems for the troops and for the Americans that are still there? How do we not have the Americans and those that helped from Afghanistan out before we possibly could get into this type of a situation? Incompetence. It's very, very concerning. The other thing I think about is not just about a prophet, but democracy, right? You've got a prophet and democracy. Those two things are just incredibly precious. And you can't force democracy. That's the whole point. You cannot force democracy into these places. It has to be accepted. That is part, to me, of the doctrine of Christ. It is liberty. It is agency. And you have to have a people that are willing to sacrifice for it. You have to have a people that are willing to, it is not that they have to be Christians, but that they have to fight and sacrifice for liberty. And I don't think we see that, obviously. I mean, you have the Afghan army that would not fight off the Taliban. I mean, it fell within, days, a week or two here. That's not something you can force. So how many weapons are now in the hands of the Taliban? How many aircraft? How many tanks? How how many rocket launchers? What's going to be in their hands? And how much do we trust what they're doing? They're going to come in and they're going to grab everything they can. They are seizing power. And they don't see just the fact that they want their own power within their country. They have another enemy besides the U.S., and that's ISIS. And they're going to need everything they've got to be able to fight off more of an international. You have ISIS-K, which is, ISIS within Afghanistan that is against the Taliban. It's a different power structure. But you have ISIS overall as an international movement that is going to probably help support this. And you could end up with a civil war there. What is the U.S. going to do then? Are we going to run ground cover and air cover, or not ground cover, but air cover for the Taliban at that point? Share intelligence with them to help them fight off ISIS and keep the Taliban in support? It's an absolute mess. Absolute mess. Prophet, I should have looked at there and understood a little bit more about what he was saying, what he was thinking. And democracy, so precious, but it is not something that can be forced. And we can look at the examples in the Book of Mormon and what happens there. That is all about a fight against democracy and the doctrine of Christ. They go together. Just a couple thoughts.